the most brutal food critic in Seoul, is about to take a bite that will end his career. He doesn't know the blind woman serving him was trained by the ghost in his own kitchen. Her name is Amara, and for the last 3 years she has operated a single cart in Itaewon, known only by the scent of her gochujang-glazed fried chicken. He is Park Min-jun, a critic whose pen has shuttered 12 restaurants. Tonight, in a penthouse above Gangnam, their worlds are about to collide because of a cruel joke and a recipe that was never written down. This is how a dish born on the street comes to silence the most powerful man in a room, and how a blind woman sees a truth that everyone else has missed. Amara's world is measured in sounds, temperatures, and the weight of a spoon. She knows her oil is ready not by sight but by a specific, quiet hiss. She gauges the caramelization of her glaze by a shift in the scent, from sharp and alcoholic to deep and floral. Her cart, Taste of Fire, is a 3-meter by 2-meter universe of memory. Every placement is exact. The batter bowl always 3 handspans from the fryer's edge. The seasoning line organized by texture, from coarse salt to fine gochugaru. She has not seen light since she was 8 years old, but she has mapped this space with a precision that sighted chefs envy. Her regulars don't see a disability. They see a conductor. They watch her hands move, confident and swift, dipping, frying, glazing, plating, all while holding a conversation, her head tilted to catch a voice over the sizzle. She is 32. She came to Seoul from Lagos 6 years ago with a culinary diploma and a savings account that emptied in 4 months. The cart was a last resort. It became her kingdom. Park Min-jun lives in a different Seoul, 49 years old. His reviews in Gourmet Horizon are not critiques, they are surgical strikes. He famously wrote of the 2 Michelin-starred restaurant *Hyangwon. The chef has mastered every technique except the one that matters, how to make food taste like something. It closed within a year. His power is absolute because his palate is considered infallible. But privately, for the last 18 months, a creeping numbness has set in. He tastes 5-star dishes and registers only technical notes. He has not been surprised, not been moved, not been silenced by a meal in 547 days. His late mother, Chef Lee Jae-won, was a different kind of legend. She ran *Hanok Table*, a tiny 10-seat Hanok restaurant in Bucheon for 30 years. She never sought stars. She had a waiting list 6 months long. Her philosophy was simple: food is memory made edible. She died 5 years ago. Her recipes, her secrets, died with her. Min-jun has spent those years writing a culinary canon that champions technical perfection, a silent, furious rebuttal to his mother's intuitive, emotional cooking. He is a monument built on the grave of what he could never understand. The link between these two worlds is a man named Choi Seung-ju, 37, heir to a construction fortune, a patron of the arts and a notorious social gadfly. His penthouse dinners are legendary for their spectacle. He collects people the way others collect art, for conversation and for display. He reads Min-jun's column about the soulless repetition of street food and gets an idea. Not a good idea, a cruel one. What if he brought the very embodiment of that soulless world into his sacred dining room? What if he presented a blind street vendor as his guest chef, a living punchline for the elite table? The humiliation would be the evening's entertainment. The critic's evisceration would be its climax. He sends an assistant to Itaewon with an offer Amara cannot refuse, a fee equal to 6 months of cart earnings for 1 night of service. The assistant lies. He says it is a private cultural exchange, a celebration of grassroots cuisine. Amara is suspicious. The money is an alarm bell, but her cart's lease is up for renewal. The landlord is raising the rent by 40%. She hears the threat in his voice. She has 6 days to find the money. She accepts. For the next 72 hours, Amara dismantles her routine. She must translate a dish built for paper plates and bustling streets into a format for porcelain and silence. Her gochujang-glazed chicken is not just fried chicken. It is a 3-day process. The birds are sourced from a specific farm in Gangwon-do, their diet yielding a distinct fat content. She brines them in a solution seasoned with doenjang, apple, and ginger for 48 hours. The frying happens in a blend of rice bran and beef tallow. The glaze is her labyrinth. It starts with a traditional gochujang base, but then she departs. There is a splash of Nigerian palm wine vinegar for acidity, an ingredient she imports at great cost. There is a whisper of nutmeg, a memory of her grandmother's own kitchen. The final texture, a glossy, sticky coat that crackles slightly when bitten, is achieved by a meticulous reduction she monitors by listening to the bubble pitch change from a rapid pop to a slow, thick plop. She prepares in her small, spotless apartment. Her friend, Mai Kyung, a former line cook who helps with shopping, describes the penthouse kitchen to her. The layout of the induction burners, the type of oven. Amara's hands move over her own utensils, memorizing the transitions she will need to make. She practices plating by touch, building a mental image of the dish's height, the smear of a black sesame puree she plans as a base, the precise scatter of fresh coriander and crushed peanuts. She is not preparing a meal, she is preparing a defense. Night arrives. A black sedan collects her. Mai Kyung accompanies her, a silent anchor. The ride to Gangnam is quiet. Amara's hands are folded in her lap. She is wearing a simple, stiff white chef's coat she bought for this occasion. The elevator to the penthouse is a silent, rushing ascent. The doors open onto a panorama of Seoul's electric skyline. The air is different up here. Cool, filtered, scented with tuberose from massive arrangements. The sound of laughter and clinking crystal is a distant wave. The host, Choi, greets her with a voice full of gleaming condescension. "Ah, our intrepid culinary adventurer, we are so curious." He leads her not to the main kitchen, but to a small, secondary pantry kitchen. "We didn't want you to be overwhelmed by the professional space," he says. "The message is clear. You are not a chef here. You are a novelty act kept backstage until your cue." In the dining room, the 8 guests are seated. Park Min-jun is at the head of the table, a place of honor that feels like a throne. He is already bored. He has endured 5 courses of technically flawless, emotionally sterile food. He sips a 20-year-old Burgundy and thinks about the review he will write, another skewering of hollow opulence. Choi stands, tapping his glass. "My dear friends, the main event. Tonight we journey from the heavens," he gestures to the view, "to the earth." A smirk touches his lips. "We have a very special chef all the way from the vibrant streets of Itaewon. She brings us a taste of real life." The double meaning hangs in the air. A server opens the pantry kitchen door. Amara walks out, guided by Mai Kyung to a spot beside the grand table. She holds a large, covered platter. She is calm, her eyes closed, her head held high. Min-jun looks at her. He sees the white coat. He sees the darkness behind her eyelids. His first feeling is not curiosity, but a profound, insulting pity. This is the joke. This is the climax of Choi's evening. He feels a surge of anger, not at Amara, but at the vulgarity of the spectacle. He sets his jaw, ready to endure this final, tasteless performance. Then the server lifts the cloche. The scent hits Min-jun first. It is not one smell, but a cascade. The deep, funky punch of fermented gochujang. The rich, savory perfume of perfectly fried chicken fat, but cutting through it a bright, unfamiliar acidic note, palm wine vinegar, and something else, a warm, sweet dustiness he cannot place. Nutmeg. His mother used nutmeg in her bulgogi marinade, a secret. His spine straightens almost imperceptibly. His eyes, which had glazed over, sharpen. He watches as Amara, with unerring accuracy, begins to plate. Her fingers dance over the dishes, placing each piece of chicken on its dark sesame smear, garnishing with a confidence that defies logic. No hesitation, no fumbling. It is a silent, breathtaking ballet of touch and memory. The table has gone quiet. The joke isn't landing. The anticipated awkwardness has been replaced by a palpable tension. Min-jun picks up his chopsticks. The room holds its breath. He breaks through the crackling glaze. The sound is crisp, definitive. He brings the piece to his mouth. And the world he has built over the last 5 years shatters in an instant. The flavor is not a taste. It is a time machine. The nutmeg, that specific, warm, secret note, is the key. It unlocks a door in his mind he sealed shut 5 years ago. He is 8 years old again, sitting on a stool in his mother's Hanok kitchen, watching her grind the whole seed over a simmering pot, saying, "This is for remembering." The palm wine vinegar is not just acidity. It is a bridge, a sharp tropical pang that connects the deep umami of Korea to something vibrant and foreign. And the texture, the exact shattering crispness giving way to succulent flesh, it is her technique. Not the double fry of modern chefs, but a single, perfect fry at a precise temperature, a method she claimed felt the chicken's readiness in the oil. Whisper. Park Min-jun does not chew, he freezes. The piece of chicken rests on his tongue. His eyes, fixed on the blind woman standing calmly beside the table, widen not in criticism, but in horrified recognition. The silence at the table stretches from awkward to profound. Choi Seung-ju's smirk has faltered. He expected a chuckle, a condescending comment, the critic's withering analysis. He did not expect this. Min-jun places his chopsticks down with a quiet, definitive click. He takes a slow sip of water, clearing the palate, but the memory remains, staining his perception. He looks at Amara, truly looks at her for the first time. Not at her blindness, not at her coat, but at the serene certainty in her posture. "Chef," he says, the word cutting the quiet. His voice is low, stripped of its usual sardonic edge. "This glaze, the nutmeg. Why?" Amara tilts her head toward his voice. "It balances the heat. It reminds people of something they cannot name." Her answer is simple, but it lands like a thunderclap in Min-jun's chest. It reminds people. His mother's entire philosophy in one phrase. "Who taught you this?" The question is out before he can stop it, raw and unprofessional. "A teacher," Amara says, "a long time ago." She offers nothing more. Min-jun's mind is racing, a film reel of contradictions spinning. His mother, Chef Lee Jae-won, never took formal apprentices. She was notoriously private, protective of her space and her methods. She turned away celebrated chefs who begged to learn from her. The idea that she would teach an unknown foreigner, a blind woman, is absurd. And yet the evidence is dissolving on his tongue. This is not a copy. This is not reverse engineering. This is transmission. The specificity of the nutmeg's application, added not to the brine but at the very end of the glaze reduction, is a fingerprint. He knows, because he spent his teenage years trying and failing to replicate it. He takes another bite against all his critics' protocol. The table watches, mesmerized by the collapse of a persona. The great Park Min-jun, rendered silent, then inquisitive, now seemingly in a trance. He finishes the piece. He does not reach for the next. He simply stares at his plate. The expected critique, the witty destruction, does not come. Instead, he does something that sends a shockwave through the room. He bows his head slightly toward Amara. It is not a full bow, but a clear, undeniable nod of respect. In the language of that room, it is a seismic event. Choi Seung-ju panics. His joke has not just failed, it has inverted itself. The punchline has become the professor. He claps his hands, a jarring sound. Well, an adventurous palate, Min-jun SSI, perhaps a bit too rustic for refined tastes, but amusing. He tries to reclaim the narrative, to reframe the moment as a charitable indulgence of a lesser craft. But the power has slipped from his hands. All eyes are on the critic, waiting for the verdict that has not arrived. Min-jun ignores him. He addresses Amara again. "The frying time, how do you know it is done?" A murmur circles the table. This is interrogation, but not the kind they anticipated. Amara's lips curve just slightly. "The oil tells me. It sings a different song when the moisture leaves and the crust begins to form. It goes from a loud, wet sizzle to a quiet, happy crackle. I listen for the moment the crackle starts to steady. That is the moment." Min-jun closes his eyes. His mother said those exact words to him. Listen for the happy crackle. He had forgotten until this second. When he opens his eyes, they are glistening. He turns to Choi, his voice now cold and clear, cutting through the ambient jazz. "You intended this to be a joke. You brought a master into your home and presented her as a clown." The gasps are audible. "This dish," he continues, pointing to his plate, "is the most technically profound and emotionally coherent food I have tasted since my mother died. You are not a patron of the arts, Choi. You are a vandal in a gallery. The dinner is over. The pretense shatters. Minjun pushes back from the table. He walks around to where Amara stands. May I speak with you privately? It is not a request. Choi, red-faced and sputtering, is ignored. Mai Kyung, reading the tense energy, guides Amara and Minjun toward a glass-walled study overlooking the city, shutting the door on the stunned, silent dining room. Inside, the noise of the city is a muted glow far below. Minjun does not know how to begin. The critic is gone, replaced by a confused, grieving son. The woman who taught you, he says, his voice strained. Was her name Lee Jaewon? Amara goes very still. Her face, usually a mask of calm concentration, shifts. A deep personal sadness passes over it. You knew her. The confirmation hits Minjun like a physical blow. He steadies himself against the glass desk. She was my mother. The two of them stand in the dim light, separated by a chasm of privilege and experience, connected by a ghost. How is all he can manage. And Amara's story unfolds. 7 years ago, she was a struggling culinary student in Lagos, saving every penny for a trip to Seoul, the culinary mecca she had studied in books converted to Braille. She arrived on a tourist visa, her dream to stage for just 1 week in a real Korean kitchen. No one would take her. She was foreign, she was blind, and the barriers were insurmountable. Desperate, she began visiting traditional markets, using her senses to map the cuisine. One rainy afternoon in Bucheon, lost and disoriented, she smelled something that stopped her, a complex, warm, gingery aroma laced with that unique nutmeg. She followed it like a beacon to the back door of a small Hanok asterisk. She knocked. Lee Jaewon opened the door. She saw a young black woman drenched, a white cane in her hand. She did not see a disability. She saw intense focus, a nose subtly flaring as it decoded the air. You are following my soup, Jaewon stated, not asked. Amara, embarrassed, admitted she was. Instead of shutting the door, Jaewon said, come in. Tell me what you smell. For 3 hours, Amara sat in that tiny kitchen. Jaewon had her taste, smell, and touch ingredients. She asked questions not about theory, but about feeling. Does this soybean paste taste lonely or content? Is the heat from this chili pepper angry or joyful? Amara, who had always thought in such terms, found her vocabulary. Jaewon was electrified. Here was a student who did not cook with eyes cluttered by expectation, but with pure, unmediated sense. She offered Amara a deal. She could come 3 times a week, not as a formal apprentice, but as a sensory translator. In return, she would learn the foundations of Korean taste. It was an unorthodox, secret apprenticeship. Jaewon told no one, not even her son, who by then was a rising critic already publicly critical of her sentimental approach. For 4 months, Amara learned. Jaewon taught her to listen to rice cooking, to feel the texture of a perfect kimchi ferment through the jar's temperature, to build flavors in layers like a narrative. The nutmeg in the bulgogi marinade was a secret Jaewon shared only with her. My son thinks food is a puzzle to be solved, she confided once, her voice sad. He has forgotten that a puzzle has only one right answer. A story has infinite ones. Then Jaewon fell ill. It was sudden. The last lesson was on the glaze, the very one now sitting in Minjun's penthouse. This one is for remembering, Jaewon said, guiding Amara's hand through the reduction. You must make someone remember something they love, even if they've forgotten what it was. A week later, she was gone. Amara, her visa expired, her heart broken, left Seoul. She returned years later with nothing but that recipe and the sensory tools Jaewon had given her, using them to build her cart, her taste of fire. Minjun listens, tears streaming down his face unabashedly. He has spent 5 years building a monument to his own understanding, attacking sentiment as weakness, all while mourning the connection he had lost. His mother had found a kindred spirit, a vessel for her legacy, and it was the person he would have least expected. The irony is devastating. The critic who demanded visual perfection was schooled by the disciple his mother chose precisely because she could not see. Back in the dining room, chaos is brewing. Choi Seung-ju, humiliated and furious, is on his phone. The guests are whispering, phones out, recording the bizarre scene. The story is already leaking. Park Min-jun broken by street food. Critic has meltdown at elite dinner. The narrative is twisting, and without context, it looks like either a scandal or a mental collapse. Choi sees an opportunity to reframe the disaster. He can paint Min-jun as unstable, his judgment compromised by emotional outbursts. He can paint Amara as a manipulative con artist. He begins weaving this new story, calling contacts in media. Min-jun, emerging from the study with Amara, ignores them all. He walks to the center of the room. His voice, when it comes, is thick but strong. Tonight you were invited to witness a cruelty. Instead, you witnessed a miracle. This woman, Chef Amara, is the last apprentice of Lee Jae-won. She carries a legacy that this city's finest restaurants have spent years trying and failing to understand. I have written 1,000,000 words of criticism. Tonight, for the first time, I have nothing to say. Because some things are beyond critique, they are simply true. He turns to Amara. I would like to taste your food again, at your cart, tomorrow. It is a public benediction, an anointment. In one sentence, he has the power to create a phenomenon, but he has also painted a target on Amara's back. As the guests are ushered out, a storm is gathering. On social media, two conflicting stories explode. One, a heartwarming tale of hidden legacy and a critic's redemption. The other, fueled by Choi's whispers, a blind vendor's clever fraud and a critic's embarrassing breakdown. The line between them is drawn by allegiance, by prejudice, by whether you believe a blind African woman could possibly hold a secret to Korean culinary soul. Amara returns to her cart the next morning, exhausted. Mai Kyung shows her the exploding online discourse. The support is fierce, but the attacks are vile. Comments question her visa status, accuse her of stealing recipes, of using her blindness for sympathy. Then a new problem arrives. A city inspector, citing a sudden anonymous complaint about ventilation and zoning, slaps a bright yellow suspension notice on her cart. She cannot operate. Her income, her 6-day deadline to renew her lease, evaporates in the face of bureaucratic tape. Choi Seung-ju's revenge is not loud. It is quiet, administrative, and devastatingly effective. Park Min-jun arrives at Itaewon at 11 a.m. as promised. He finds the cart shuttered, the notice glaring. Amara is sitting on a stool beside it, her face to the sun, listening to the world pass by. He understands instantly. The war is no longer about taste. It is about power, and he has just made her a pawn in a game she never asked to play. He made her visible, and now the shadows are trying to erase her. He looks at the suspended cart, then at the woman who unlocked his heart, and realizes his critique was only the beginning. His real work is to protect the legacy his mother entrusted to her, from the very world he helped create. Park Min-jun is a master of words, but he is facing an enemy that speaks in permits, zoning codes, and anonymous tips. The suspension notice on Amara's cart is not an opinion to be debated. It is a wall. And behind that wall, Choi Seung-ju is just getting started. Min-jun's first move is to call his lawyer. The second is to post a single, devastating sentence on his social media, a platform followed by 500,000 food elites. The best meal in Seoul is currently illegal. The city has suspended Taste of Fire in Itaewon. Ask yourself who benefits from silence. He tags the city office and includes a photo of the yellow notice. The internet, already divided, erupts. Hashtags bloom. #Free Taste of Fire and Fraudulent Chef trend side by side. Supporters flock to the cart's location with signs, creating a makeshift vigil. Detractors call the health department, flooding the lines with fresh complaints. The story is now a public battleground. Min-jun uses his influence like a scalpel. He calls in favors from 2 restaurateurs whose careers he saved with positive reviews. They quietly reach out to contacts in the licensing bureau. The message comes back. The complaint was unusually specific, citing a minor ventilation code from 1998 that almost no street vendor could meet. It was pushed through a fast-track review. The paper trail is clean, but the scent of interference is strong. Meanwhile, Amara faces a more intimate attack. Her landlord, a stern man in his 60s, appears. He is not angry, he is apologetic but firm. He has received an offer to buy the entire block, including the space her cart leases. The offer is 30% above market value. The buyer is a shell company. He shows her the paperwork. The sale would go through in 10 days. If she cannot match the offer, an impossibility, she must leave. Her entire physical foothold in Seoul is being purchased out from under her. Minjun sees the pattern. This is not just harassment, it is eradication. Choi is using his wealth not to shout, but to quietly delete Amara's existence from the city's map. Minjun makes a decision. He drives Amara and Mai Kyung to his mother's old Hanok in Bukchon. He has kept it sealed since her death, a museum of his grief. The air inside is still, thick with memory and dust. He leads Amara to the kitchen. "Show me," he says. "Cook the glaze here, in her kitchen. I need to see it born in the right place." For Amara, stepping into that space is a tidal wave of sense memory. The specific echo of the room, the lingering ghost of fermented pastes in the wood, the feel of the old countertop under her fingers. It is all exactly as she remembered. She does not need a guide. She moves to the sink, finds the bowls, locates the stove by its faint residual heat and the smell of old gas. She begins to cook from memory in the dark. Minjun watches, transfixed. He is not watching a blind woman cook. He is watching a ritual. Her hands move with an ownership that he, the son, never possessed. She belongs in this kitchen more than he ever did. When the glaze reaches its final stage, she adds the nutmeg, grinding it fresh. The scent that fills the Hanok is the scent of his childhood, exact and whole. He begins to weep silently. He is not mourning anymore. He is witnessing a resurrection. This moment of private clarity is shattered by a phone call. It is Minjun's editor at Gourmet Horizon. The tone is grave. Sponsors are threatening to pull ads. The board is concerned. Choi Seung-ju's father sits on the board of the magazine's parent company. A narrative is being formally suggested that Minjun, in his grief, has become emotionally compromised, championing a sentimental fraud that damages the magazine's credibility. They ask him to take a leave of absence. They ask him to retract his social media post. He refuses. They suspend him. Just like that, the critic is stripped of his platform. His weapon, his pen, is taken away. The attack is now two-fronted: erase the apprentice, silence the disciple. But the loss of his job does something unexpected. It frees him. The persona of Park Min-jun, the brutal critic, was a cage. Now he is just a son fighting for his mother's legacy. He uses his severance pay to retain a top immigration lawyer for Amara. Her visa, a student visa long expired, is a ticking bomb that Choi will inevitably find and use. They must get ahead of it. The lawyer's advice is stark. Her best hope is to apply for a special talent visa, but she needs a sponsor of significant repute and undeniable proof of her unique skill. Minjun can be the sponsor, but his repute is now under fire. The proof lies in the connection to Lee Jae-won, which has been, until now, a private story. They need evidence. Amara remembers one thing. In their last lesson, Jae-won, feeling unwell, had asked her to fetch a notebook from a high shelf in the Hanok asterisk, a small leather-bound journal. Amara, using a step stool, had found it by touch. She describes it now. Minjun's breath catches. He knows that journal. His mother called it her taste diary. He believed it was lost. They searched the sealed Hanok frantically. Finally, behind a loose brick near the stove, a hiding place his mother once showed him when he was a child, they find it. The leather is cracked, the pages fragile. Minjun opens it with trembling hands. It is not a recipe book. It is a series of observations, poetic and precise. And there, on a page dated just a few months before her death, an entry. "Today, my new friend, the one who sees with her nose and ears, understood the soul of the glaze immediately. She asked if the nutmeg was there to comfort the chili. Yes, that is exactly it. Her name is Amara. She has the gift." It is proof, not just of contact, but of recognition, of mentorship. It is a bomb waiting to be detonated. Minjun scans the page. He also finds something else, something that changes everything. Earlier entries from years before mention a project with a young, ambitious chef she was mentoring, someone she found technically brilliant but emotionally cold. She writes, "I try to teach him feeling, but he only wants formula. His name is Choi Seung-ju. I fear I am teaching a sculptor who only wishes to be a brickmaker." The revelation is staggering. Choi was not just a random socialite. He was briefly an unsuccessful apprentice of Lee Jae-won. His humiliation at the dinner was not just about class or race. It was about a deep, personal jealousy. He had failed to earn the master's secret. The blind foreigner had received it effortlessly. His cruelty was a frantic, violent attempt to destroy the living proof of his own inadequacy. Armed with the journal, Min Jun and his lawyer devise a strategy. They will go on the offensive. They schedule a press conference, not in a corporate room, but in the very alley beside Amara's shuttered cart. They invite every major outlet. The story is no longer about a food critic's opinion. It is about legacy, theft, and corruption. The night before the conference, the final blow falls. Amara receives a formal letter from immigration. Her presence has been deemed not conducive to public interest, following multiple complaints. She is ordered to appear for a deportation hearing in 72 hours. Choi has played his ultimate card. He will have her physically removed from the country. The walls are not just closing in, they are preparing to eject her into the sky. The morning of the press conference dawns gray and drizzling. A crowd has gathered. Reporters, supporters, curious onlookers, and a handful of hired hecklers planted by Choi. Amara stands beside her cart, her hand resting on its cold metal. Min Jun stands at a small microphone. He is no longer in a suit. He is dressed simply. He begins not with a statement, but with a story. He tells the crowd about his mother, about her philosophy, about her search for a student who could feel food as story. He admits his own failure to understand her. Then he introduces Amara. He calls her not a street vendor, but the last apprentice of Lee Jae-won. He holds up the scanned page from the journal, projected onto a screen for all to see. The crowd murmurs, cameras flashing. Then he unveils the second revelation. He names Choi Seung-ju not just as a vindictive host, but as a former rejected pupil driven by envy. He presents the journal entry. The story twists, gaining a new, darker dimension. This is not a random act of cruelty. It is a premeditated act of artistic vengeance. Min Jun then announces the deportation order, framing it as the final, desperate move of a man trying to bury the truth. He calls on the public, on the city, on the culinary community to see what is happening. They are not trying to shut down a cart, he says, his voice ringing in the damp air. They are trying to delete a chapter of our soul because they cannot bear to read it. As he speaks, a black sedan pulls up at the edge of the crowd. Choi Seung-ju gets out, flanked by two lawyers. He did not expect this. He expected a defensive, emotional plea. He did not expect to be named, to have his own secret history laid bare. He pushes through the crowd, his face a mask of controlled fury. He demands to speak. The microphone is a weapon, and Min Jun, in a calculated risk, hands it to him. The entire conflict, the entire documentary, now hinges on the next 90 seconds in a rainy Itaewon alley. Choi Seung-ju takes the microphone, and the rain seems to fall quieter. He does not look at the crowd. He looks directly at Park Min-jun with the cold disappointment of a teacher facing a failing student. "You have traded your credibility for a fairy tale," he begins, his voice slick with reason. "And you are asking Seoul to do the same." He gestures dismissively at the projected journal page. A sad, grieving note about a visitor. "This proves nothing but my late friend's kindness." Where are the signed contracts? The official apprenticeship papers? There are none, because it never happened. He turns to the crowd, his tone becoming one of concerned patriotism. "This is about protecting our culinary heritage from cheap forgery. Would you authenticate a Rembrandt based on a sticky note? This woman is a talented cook, but she is not a successor. She is a storyteller, and my dear friend Min Jun is a desperate audience." He pauses, letting the doubt seep in. Then he pivots to his masterstroke. "And this deportation order," he holds up a copy of the letter. "This is not my doing, this is the law. Her visa expired years ago. She has been working illegally. I, like any citizen, reported a violation. That is not vengeance, that is responsibility." He sells it perfectly. The reluctant, dutiful citizen forced to act. The narrative he offers is clean, logical, and devastating. It reframes Min Jun as an emotional fool and Amara as a clever, illegal immigrant. The crowd's energy shifts. The reporter's expressions turn skeptical. The victory Min Jun felt just moments ago is leaking away into the wet pavement. Then a voice cuts through the drizzle. It is not loud, but it is clear. It is Amara. She has taken a small step forward, her face turned toward Choi's voice. "You are right," she says. The crowd stills, surprised by her agreement. "There is no contract, no paper," she pauses, "but you are wrong about the proof." She turns her head slightly, addressing the space between the cameras and the people. "The proof is in the food, and the proof is in your fear." She takes another step, her white cane tapping lightly. "At the dinner, you asked for no proof. You expected a joke. When the joke failed, you did not ask for my recipes or my papers. You called the health department. You bought my landlord's block. You called immigration. If I am just a storyteller, why use a bulldozer to silence me?" The question hangs, naked and powerful. It reframes every bureaucratic attack not as procedure but as panic. Min Jun seizes the opening. He takes the microphone back. "You want proof, not from a page, from the palate." He points to the crowd. "Among you are 3 chefs who trained under my mother in her early years. They are here because I asked them to come. They know her taste like they know their own names." He calls them forward. An elderly man who runs a famed *Hanjeongsak* restaurant in Insadong, a woman who is the chef owner of a Michelin-starred modern Korean spot, and a third, a revered *Kimchi* master. "We will cook. Right now. Here. Amara will make her dish. And these 3 will taste it blindfolded and tell you what they taste." It is a breathtaking gamble. Choi's face goes pale. He cannot object without looking guiltier. The crowd erupts in a mix of cheers and shock. In the chaos, Min Jun's team swiftly sets up a portable induction burner and a table. Amara's ingredients are produced from a cooler, the pre-marinated chicken, her glazed components. The 3 elder chefs are seated, blindfolded. The rain slows to a mist. The entire scene is broadcast live on multiple social media streams. Amara begins to cook. There is no spectacle now, only function. Her hands move with the same serene certainty they possess at her cart. The sizzle of the oil, the bubbling of the reducing glaze, the final grind of nutmeg. It all happens in a bubble of intense focus. The dishes are plated, simple and identical. They are placed before the 3 blindfolded chefs. The first, the *Hanjeongsak* master, takes a bite. He chews slowly. His face, initially neutral, crumples. A tear escapes from beneath his blindfold. "The nutmeg," he whispers into his lap microphone. "Jaiwon's secret, no one else knew." The second chef, the modern innovator, eats. She sits back, stunned. The texture, the single fry. She said it was about patience, not technique. This is her patience. The third, the *Kimchi master, is last. He does not speak immediately. He takes 2 more bites, then removes his blindfold, his eyes red. He looks at Amara, then at the crowd. "I have not tasted this since I was a boy in her kitchen. This is not a copy. This is a memory. She taught you. There is no other way." The verdict is unanimous. It is not intellectual, it is cellular. The proof is in the taste, and the taste is truth. The crowd's reaction is a wave of released cheers, applause, tears. The cameras swing to Choi Seung-ju. His mask of reason has shattered, replaced by a blank, cold fury. He turns and pushes through the crowd toward his car without another word. His retreat is the admission of guilt. The dominoes fall quickly after that. The viral video of the blind taste test becomes a sensation. Public pressure becomes an avalanche. The city, embarrassed, lifts the suspension on Taste of Fire within 24 hours, citing a review of procedural irregularities. The immigration lawyer presents the case for a special talent visa, bolstered by sworn affidavits from the 3 tasting chefs and the journal evidence. The deportation order is set aside, pending a full review that is all but guaranteed to succeed. The offer to buy Amara's block is mysteriously withdrawn. The shell company dissolves. Choi Seung-ju, facing a tsunami of bad press and scrutiny from his own family's board, leaves Seoul for an extended overseas business trip. His social capital is incinerated. Min-jun, the victory is bittersweet. Gourmet Horizon does not reinstate him. They offer a vague consultancy role which he declines. He is no longer the city's feared critic. He is something else, a curator of legacy. He uses his savings and a modest inheritance from his mother to fulfill a promise. He reopens the Bukchon Hanok not as a museum, but as a tiny 10-seat restaurant called Sitgo Recollection. Amara is the head chef. Mai Kyung is her sous chef and eyes. The menu is a dialogue. One dish is Amara's interpretation of a Korean classic, guided by Jaewon's principles. The next is Min-jun's attempt to deconstruct a Nigerian dish, guided by Amara's sensory vocabulary. It is not fusion, it is conversation. The waiting list is 6 months long. The final surprise comes not from the past, but from the future. A year after Sitgo opens, a documentary filmmaker, having followed the entire story, screens her film at a festival. In the audience is a wizened, elderly Nigerian woman. She is Amara's grandmother, whom she has not seen in 8 years. Amara, on stage for a Q&A, does not know she is there. The grandmother stands during the questions. Her voice, strong and clear, asks in Igbo, "My child, do you still use your strong hands to hold people up?" Amara, on stage, freezes. Then she begins to weep with a joy so profound the entire audience feels it. Her grandmother had saved every penny from her village market stall to buy the plane ticket, to witness the woman her granddaughter had become. It is the final, unbreakable thread in the story, the original teacher meeting the legacy her student now carries. The last scene is a Tuesday night at Sitgo *. The service is over. Min-jun and Amara sit at the single wooden table in the empty Hanok *. They are eating bowls of simple rice and leftovers. They are arguing passionately about whether the scent of rain on dry earth is more like the smell of roasted barley tea or of fresh doenjang *. Their voices are loud, full of life. On the wall is a framed photo. Lee Jaewon, smiling, with a young, sighted Amara standing beside her in the very same kitchen, both caught in mid-laughter. The circle is not just closed. It is spinning forward, creating a new orbit of memory and taste. The brutal critic was silenced, but in the quiet that followed, he finally learned how to listen. The story of Amara and Park Min-jun is not a fairy tale. It is a map of how legacy travels in ways we cannot see, through senses we often ignore, to people the world has deemed unworthy to receive it. A brutal critic was not defeated by a better argument. He was disarmed by a memory he had tried to bury, served to him by the most unexpected vessel. His entire framework for judgment, built on visibility and technical perfection, collapsed in the face of a truth that was felt, not seen. Amara did not win a battle against the elite. She exposed a flaw in its vision. She proved that the most profound expertise can reside in the last place you think to look, guided by a logic that has nothing to do with sight and everything to do with insight. Her cart was not just a business, it was an archive. Her hands were not just tools, they were translators for a voice that had gone silent. And Choi Seung-ju, the man with all the power, all the connections, all the right paperwork, he made the fatal error of believing that reality is only what you can document and control. He forgot that taste, memory, and truth are forces that operate on a different ledger. You cannot buy them, you cannot zone them out, and you absolutely cannot deport them. They wait, patient as a simmering pot, for the right moment to fill the room. So what is the lingering question this story leaves us with? It is this: what are you blind to? What legacy, what truth, what person of profound value are you overlooking because they do not fit the established picture of where genius or authenticity should live? We all have our inner Park Min-jun, making swift judgments based on the surface. And we all have our inner Choi Seung-ju, threatened by what we failed to understand and desperate to demolish it. The lesson is not that we should all become food critics or street vendors. The lesson is about perception. It is about the humility to accept that the world is deeper, stranger, and more connected than our biases allow us to see. That a secret ingredient can be a bridge across continents and generations. That sometimes you have to close your eyes to finally see clearly. This is the power of story. It reminds us. If you want to be reminded of the hidden connections that shape our world, the unseen battles and the quiet triumphs, then make sure you are here for the next one. Subscribe and stay curious.